Hello and welcome to my conversation with Priya. I'm your host, Priya Mishra. Today is our guest, Vikram Gupta. Is the managing partner and a founder of million-dollar venture capital called IvyCap Ventures, venture capital fund management company focused on professional entrepreneurs. Vikram is passionate about music. He enjoys helping others, especially helping and supporting entrepreneurs' dream. And he has been working this for a very, very long time. We will be hearing his history, his journey very soon. So help me to welcome Vikram Gupta today. Hello and welcome to my show, Conversation with Priya. Vikram, thank you for joining in today.
Thank you, Priya, for having me on this show.
Pleasure. I have been hearing your journey towards more of a venture capitalism, and you are working as a CEO capacity in your IvyCap, and this initiative is very interesting. A lot of investors are actually taking advantage out of it. Would you mind telling your journey, how this all started?
So I started IvyCap Ventures in the year 2011. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, I was with a large group in India, a large pharma and healthcare group in India, which is a multi-billion-dollar group, where I had set up India's first healthcare life sciences private equity fund, which is a $100 million fund, right, which I raised in the year 2008 and 9 when the markets were really bad. And that was an interesting experience. Right. And I'll come to that. But I think prior to that, I was in the US with IBM Consulting for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. My background prior to that is I'm an engineer and an MBA by background. Worked in the pharma industry, in consulting, in healthcare life sciences. Did a lot of investing, setting up a fund from scratch at the Pyramid Group, and then set up IvyCap in 2011, primarily because that fund which I set up, had to have a different path altogether because Pyramid Group decided to sell their healthcare business to a large corporate. Mm-hmm. And that led me to start IvyCap Ventures. So that's how my journey is. And for the last 10 years, we've been now doing quite well. We have about $200 million of assets under management. And another $200 million of fund being raised right now. We have a portfolio of about 30 companies across different sectors, primarily technology. We invest at Series A and Series B stages. First check is about 3 to 5 million, with a follow-on of another up to 10 to 15 million. So that's the kind of strategy that we have.
Interesting. So that brings to my next question. What are the major trends what you personally have seen in the last few years? And, how do you see this? What are some market predictions for 2021 you are seeing, considering what we are going through worldwide?
So, I think, of course, COVID has hit the entire world, right? So it's not been just a one locational phenomena. Of course, it has hit different geographies to different extents. Right. And India was hit with a second wave very recently, which was very nasty, I would say. Yeah. Just about a month ago, people in Delhi, and since you mentioned you are from Delhi, you would obviously know how situation was really bad in terms of the pressure on the healthcare system, in terms of the availability of hospital beds, oxygen concentrators, the medicines. So it's been a tough situation, I would say. And I think a similar situation we saw happening in Italy earlier than in UK. Of course, we also saw something similar in the US. And this whole thing has been happening across different parts of the world. We just hope that the third wave, if it all happens, which is very high likely to happen, given the size of the population in India, and the vaccination drive is still at very early stages with respect to the overall size of the population. Yeah. I would say that we are not obviously yet out of the woods. So in that sense, I would say that people are still kind of with that mindset of stay home, work from home, don't go out, don't interact or mingle with each other, avoid parties, don't go to restaurants, malls, everything is shut down during these times.
Right.
So that kind of a situation obviously gives rise to a very different kind of customer or a business or an industry trend. So especially, things start moving on from offline to online.
Right.
And when that happens, new industries evolve, old industries start kind of pivoting into new ones. For example, restaurants would start turning into cloud kitchens, right? So, I mean, they were earlier, they were probably really going after prime locations, right? So, and they will be paying very heavy rents for those prime locations, and locations don't matter anymore.
Right.
So that way, and therefore the real estate rentals would have come down substantially. So it has impacted those industries, any infrastructure or asset-heavy businesses.
Yeah.
So there's a substantial shift from offline to online, from asset-heavy businesses to asset-light businesses.
Yeah.
And therefore, we've seen a substantial kind of progress when it comes to healthcare tech or edutech or fintech or B2B SaaS companies.
Right.
Or even when it comes to rural or remote access, there's a big opportunity there as well. So I think broader trends are basically going in the direction where technology is playing bigger and bigger role.
Yeah.
The governments have a much larger role to play in such situations.
Yeah.
So therefore, anything that supports the government initiatives also does very well during these times. So yeah, I would say that these are the broader trends.
Interesting. And do you think I have seen India has a startup trend recently. A lot of startup companies are coming and a lot of big talents are actually somewhere rising up from this startup community. Amazing growth we can see, and India in Inc. is always there, but this startup community is bringing great ideas and succeeding very high. Do you still think that that is gonna continue that trend, or is gonna affect it somehow?
So India is the third largest nation in the world in terms of the startup. It's the third largest startup nation in the world. There are over 50,000 startups, I think probably touching about 60,000. Even in terms of number of unicorns, which is basically a unicorn is defined as $1 billion valuation startups. India is again the third largest with over 50 unicorns now.
Right.
Obviously this trend will continue. This year itself, we've seen already about 12 or 13 unicorns already, new unicorns that got added. Given that what's happening and the number of VC funds has substantially increased. At the time when we started IvyCap 2011, there were hardly any VC funds or domestic VC funds in India. We were one of the first 4 or 5 funds in India to be set up.
Right.
And of course, now there are almost about 250 funds which are registered. Even though still active funds would still be around 30 to 40. So there's a huge opportunity building up to actually invest through a very structured approach. Of course, the number of angel investors have substantially increased in the country.
Right.
From just a few organized angel platforms to a large number of angel platforms and more and more families or corporates getting involved in the startup ecosystem, which is actually getting exciting, I would say. And the story is looking better and better as we move forward when it comes to the startup ecosystem in India.
Right. And I have always noticed and heard about it, and many professional practice services are actually, it's kind of a supplementary service for these kind of product-oriented service or SaaS or technology or whatever business is going on. Professional practice services are always a supplementary service, and it also rises according to the other market is actually rising. Do you think is there any scope of those kind of a businesses to get into in getting that kind of a support like venture capitalists and grow higher in Indian market or international market?
India has evolved, especially and even global markets, you would see more and more focus going over developing tech products. and anything which is supporting. For example, if you look at Zoom as a product, right? I mean, in the year 2019, people had heard about it. I think obviously people were using it off and on, but see where it has gone, in like 1 year.
Yeah.
So the part of the reason why these kind of technologies are going to get more and more center stage, and this is just one example, is a video platform. There are quite a few similar platforms which are business to business platforms. Zoom is a B2C platform, but you will see it's a B2B as well as B2C platform. But there are quite a few B2B platforms which are now becoming more and more active, especially with the use of new technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, blockchain technologies are being used quite proactively in the fintech space.
Yeah.
You have AR, VR is actually another big one. In fact, is now being applied to medical education and quite a few other areas as well.
Sure.
So as the newer technology is coming into play, you will see more and more B2B product businesses building up. So and those businesses from venture capital perspective are actually very attractive, because what happens is that the initial cost of building the product is high, but once the product is built, then it's all about marketing and product, follow on next versions of the product. So effectively, the margins are very high in those businesses if you're able to really establish yourself in your target customers. Right. So from VC perspective, these are very, very attractive businesses. You can actually get very good returns on such investments.
Yeah. And I mean, I would like to hear your views on some of the impact that AI is going to have in businesses and consumers that perhaps they don't realize yet.
Yeah. So in fact, AI is all about automation, right? So it's all about automating tasks. And I'm a very strong believer that in even our day-to-day activities, almost 70 to 80% of the things that we do on a daily basis can be automated, right? So, I was actually, most of my background is in the healthcare life sciences as an industry vertical. I've spent a lot of time in other industries as well. But look at a scenario where you walk into a hospital and you get your medical treatment done.
Yeah.
And you walk out of the hospital and you haven't met a doctor at all. And I think that is a likely scenario for certain kinds of conditions or treatment or procedures. That's very, very likely scenario, which is already a potential kind of a model to happen. They're talking about pilotless planes.
Yeah.
All these things which have the potential to run on an automation kind of a model. Most of these manufacturing facilities, there's a repeat processes that happen. You don't need the humans to keep just sitting there and monitoring things. Of course, you need maybe for outlier situations, but not for, day-to-day run-of-the-mill kind of situations. So you will see more and more of things, converting the regular repetitive tasks getting converted into computerized implementation or execution, right? So whether it is healthcare or education, we're already seeing that happening in the education space. Or even now we are seeing application even in agri-tech space, where a lot of application of AI is happening there as well. So and fintech, of course, fintech is there's a lot of repetitive activities that happen. So I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, the bad thing for the short term, it is going to have an impact on a large number of jobs, but the impact is not in terms of. I mean, we've seen historically when computers came for the first time, there was a huge resistance from various government institutions, especially to begin with, because people had that fear of losing jobs, and there were strikes and there were people kind of just, there was a lot of hue and cry all over the world, different places, people thinking that this is fundamentally going to take away people's jobs. But I think of course, over time, people realize that this is part of a natural evolution.
Right.
And the same thing is happening as we speak right now. This is a natural evolution. People are talking about losing jobs. But at the same time, it's a natural transition from one skill set to the next skill set. And it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 years from now, there'll be another evolution, which is again bound to change things quite substantially, and people may again lose jobs. But I think it's kind of a repositioning or reconditioning, reskilling, which is what one has to continuously look towards, and that's what is likely to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's human nature, and it's a part of human evaluation. We have been seeing that for centuries. Like, we evolve, we learn, we move on to the new things always. This AI is actually, recently I was saying that suppose you are going by a car, you're crossing this road, it will tell you which restaurant, we are already getting all that in GPS anyway, but I'm just saying that it's going to be which restaurant, how many restaurant, with the review, it will all your car will tell you everything. So adopting to that, most of the businesses should be ready to perform on that upcoming one. And we haven't fully adopted AI. It's just naturally getting embedded in our system. And we are most of the business owner you talk, they get excited when they talk about, this thing came, this particular technology came and this new feature came. But when it comes to thinking about consequences, people talk about consequences as well. But these things, the AI is actually bringing a lot of new things, but the quantum we are already thinking. As you said, that 10 years down the line, there is something. We are already working on it. And Google and Indian government, this last budget, actually brought a huge amount to spend on the research on the quantum technology. So things are going to change. We just need to be ready for adopting, isn't it?
No, absolutely. In fact, you gave a very good example of the cars talking to you, and and that's part of that is already happening with all the GPS systems, etc. We just announced a new investment today, $6 million, in a company called Get My Parking.
Yeah.
And what this company does is it basically creates small hubs, parking hubs, and these are smart parking hubs. And the way it happens is that each of the parking lots basically get interconnected to the entire central system, and each of these hubs can provide very, very focused products and services depending on your needs. And if you are going somewhere, you may not have prior information otherwise. Where you should go and park your car. But if your needs are predefined, if you know that, you need some gas in your car, you need some washing, or you need, you're thirsty, you don't know where to buy your bottle of water from, or you're thinking that something, just struck you and you need to buy something else. All that can be done through this entire network, through this smart parking system. Right. So this is the kind of evolution you're talking about, and this company has already implemented this across Europe and other countries. 17 countries they're already present in, and now they're taking it to the other rest of the countries. And it's an amazing kind of evolution which is happening. Eventually, next level of this would be the cars can directly talk to the parking lots. You don't even need to, and as long as your car knows what your need is, and as I said, 80% of that would be pretty standard, pretty well known to your car already.
Yeah.
And in the process, your car will be able to communicate your parking lot already, and it basically will be able to tell you, which is the right direction to go to. Yeah. So absolutely, this is a very interesting kind of.
Yeah, the thing is that most of the businesses are actually adopting very slow. I was listening recently. I went to a talk and people were talking about voice search. Voice search is there, and you should actually adopt to that. And I'm saying, Siri's been there for 11 years now.
Yeah, exactly.
We should literally embracing it rather than adopting it. By now.
When Google became Google, Yahoo was already there. It's not that, I think it's all about the evolution to the next wave which actually connects with the customers.
Right.
So you may have a technology which is existing there, but if it is not really, serving that specific use cases that you really want, then somebody else will come and, really address the right pain points of the customers. So that's the most important thing is that, and the customer pain points also keep evolving, right? So people's requirements, the needs keep changing. As people sitting at home can order whatever they want, their needs will suddenly change. What we wear, our internet connection needs, our kind of home infrastructure needs, things like those. Suddenly, there's a new set of requirements, right? So as those new requirements happen, you start new set of companies becoming unicorns, So I think this will continue to happen.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the people who are actually looking forward to that technology-oriented lifestyle, they will be early adopters, and rest all will just follow the wave.
Correct. Absolutely.
Very few people are early adopters, but those are the one who changes the whole wave. Actually, they creates the wave. Actually,
I think there is also always an early excitement about new things. And there is always that huge kind of the first mover advantage that people get. Tesla, when it came, obviously there's no other EVs out there, and the whole concept was new to the market. Driverless cars, and people thought that, you would never want to sit in a car where, you don't know the car is driving you, right? So it's a concept which sounds very scary in the beginning.
Yeah. And, air taxi and all that.
So, and to be honest with you, you don't want to be, as a consumer, be the first one to be tested on, that happens in all kinds of products, whether it's medical drugs or these kind of products. Of course, I was looking at, a Tesla, where, I was just trying to understand, how these driverless cars would actually do, how accurate they are. While they're quite accurate, but I think, if you're, for any reason, if your cameras in the car, have some issues, the cost of failure is extremely high, right? So wherever the cost of failure is extremely high, you are very hesitant. Really,
not only that, there are cyber attack issues and, other stuffs are also there. So if it is not highly secure, you see what is happening in the computer world, right? Imagine that computer is hacked when you are driving. So the crime, it will be a different level of crime to,
absolutely
handle.
And that's a huge issue. I remember a joke where the or a meme actually, where there's a voice in the plane which says that I'm the pilot, and I'm today I'm working from home. So and I think and there is a lot of talk about the planes being hacked if they are actually, and the planes, even if you're sitting if the pilot is sitting in the plane. So today, if your systems are not secure, there is a risk of, the systems being hacked.
Yeah. And one small error, one small mistake can cost a lot. But, that brings to, I'm just curious to know what companies in your portfolio that you are personally excited about the most.
So, Priya, I think we're quite diversified portfolio. We have, on one side, we have a B2C or D2C, direct to consumer kind of brands that we have. We have Purple, which is a beauty and personal care platform. We have Clovia, which is a online, offline lingerie platform, which is now the largest in the country. We have a company called Bewakoof, and you'll understand the meaning of Bewakoof. It's a Hindi word for stupid, and it's a very unique name, but it's basically targeting the very young audience, just about to go out of college or just out of college kind of a crowd, for T-shirts and casual wear.
Okay.
We have another company called Bluestone, which is a jewelry company, now the largest independent jewelry platform in the country. And then we recently invested in a company called Miko, which is a robotics a platform targeted towards kids. Basically, interacting very actively with the kids. So some of these companies, I would say, I'm personally very excited about this entire portfolio of consumer. We have a health tech healthcare portfolio as well. A company called Elucidata, which is a drug discovery platform. It's an AI platform for drug discovery. And then we have another company called Synapsica, which is a radiology AI platform. And then we have quite a few B2B SaaS platforms, which we're talking about, companies like Convosite. Then we have a company called Online Sales. I think some of these companies, we have about 30 plus companies in the portfolio. And some of these companies, I would say, have the potential to become very, very large. In fact, Purple, we made a very small investment in 2015. And we had probably what we told is the largest exit ever by a domestic VC fund in India in terms of the outcome. So we sold our stake to a bunch of investors, including Sequoia. So that was a very good outcome for us. So I would say that consumer tech as an area, we have built a very good portfolio. Health tech, we built a very good portfolio. Fintech, we have built a very good portfolio. We have a P2P lending platform called Lendbox. And then we have a rural banking platform called FinkPay. So these are some of the companies I would say are very, very exciting.
Very interesting. So that comes to my next question. Like, I know you like your company name is IvyCap. When people wants to apply through the IvyCap, do you run a campaign or people can apply to that platform? And if you see any, they have the idea, they can apply, and then you take it further.
So the fund is called IvyCap, CAP.
Yeah.
And within IvyCap, we have a platform called IvyCamp, CAMP.
Right.
So the IvyCamp platform actually is a tech platform. It's an AI-enabled platform.
Right.
Which has, out of about 30,000 startups which would have applied or come to the platform, there's a curated set of startups, about 3,000 of them, which have been curated based on certain criteria. And typically, we would run certain campaigns. We would, and these campaigns would be around certain specific target areas. For example, last year when COVID started, we ran a COVID challenge. And, through that COVID challenge, we had very specific requirements in terms of, AI enabled startups. And then we got about 300 applications for that. And finally, we actually ended up investing in one of them, Synapsica. We invested in that. It's a $3 to $4 million round. So platform actually, in that sense, what it does, it actually, on one side, it has startups. On the other side, it has mentors, corporates. On the startup, it has various incubation centers, accelerators, and universities. Lots of universities are on the platform.
Right.
So it's an engagement platform which actually helps startups get a lot of support that they need.
Yeah. So that mentoring concept brought me next question, like what advice would you give CEOs when they are actually scaling their business and other specific qualities that are required to help people to do that?
The biggest challenge for growing startups is building the right teams. I think on one side, because of the number of startups out there, there's a huge competition for talent, right? So on one side, you have to retain your talent.
Right.
And on the other side, you have to keep recruiting good talent, right? So it's kind of a balance you have to achieve. If you lose more talent than you're able to retain, then it becomes a huge problem. Growth is all related to building right teams. And so therefore, I think I would say if I were to give an advice to them is like, find right methods to hire and retain people. And I think these methods are also to do with how you share value with people you bring on board. One is, of course, you have to select the right people to make sure they align with your vision and they're passionate about what you're doing.
Right.
Very hard to find such people. Otherwise, I think you have to spend time. And the second is, once they have joined you, make sure that, you take care of them. I believe in this mantra of that, if you help people succeed, if you help people around you succeed, they will work harder to make you successful. So you have to make sure you understand what are their goals in life, what does success mean to them. So spend a lot of time understanding those things.
Yeah.
And then try to contribute towards the success, and things will happen.
Yeah. And I always believe it should happen both sides, not just from customer point of view and not just from the talent point of view. It should have for both sides. Retaining concept should be, and you should have, I always recommend you should have a proper retainer model for both party, because your team is your asset and you can't keep hunting all the time new customer. You need.
No, absolutely. And I think the other thing is, of course, there are lots of things that, growth entrepreneurs will have to keep in mind. But I think one thing which I would also recommend over and above the standard business things about customers and investors and your business and the employees is trying and seeing whether you can make positive contribution toward your environment. Be very conscious about your environment, because, you conduct your business with the permission of the society, and you have to make sure that you're actually not doing things which will actually impact negatively.
Yeah.
Whether it is to do with the polluting the air or polluting the water or, any other such things, or even growing the people, or, whether it's linked to the gender bias or things like those. I think if one is very conscious about the specific things about making contribution or positive contribution, and that, we follow this SDG framework, Sustainable Development Goals framework, in our investing now, we believe that actually brings a lot of awareness in the minds of entrepreneurs, and actually helps them contribute positively toward the overall environment.
Right. Thank you so much for your time and sharing this wisdom. Really appreciate your value add today. Before you go, if people wants to reach you out, or you want to avail IvyCap in, venture capital, they want any kind of investment, how can they reach out to you?
There are multiple ways. On our website, IvyCapVentures.com. They can go to that site. I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or they can just write to me straight away, Vikram@IvyCapVentures.com. So yeah, so I'm quite active in responding to people.
Thank you. So thank you. All your details will be given on the description, so people can reach you out if you don't remember. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And we will be looking forward to hearing more from you in our comments. Thank you so much. Thanks, Vikram, for your joining in today.
Thanks a lot, Priya. Very nice talking to you, and thanks for having me on this program.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done it. To know more about us, visit www.corporality.global. And also you can find more about Priya Mishra is on priya.sydney.